Okay, I'm going to try to make a quick video on how to feed your sourdough starter. This is everything you need. I've got the sourdough that's been growing since I fed it yesterday. This is my discard jar. This is my unbleached all-purpose flour. This is some just room temperature filtered water and a spatula. And then I have some paper towels. And the paper towels are important because when you're dealing with sourdough starter, you should not wash it into the sink because it will clog your pipes. So to the best of your ability, anytime you're wiping off dishes to clean get the sourdough starter off, you want to use a paper towel and throw that in the trash. So first thing you want to do is you want to take the lid off of your jar, and we're going to turn on our scale. Every scale works differently, so you'll have to figure that out. But I'm going to measure in grams how heavy this is. It says 588 grams. Now I know that my empty jar without the lid is around 480 grams. So I have about 188 grams of starter in there. The reason why you want to pour some of that out is because if I was to add equal parts water and flour to what's in there now, it would rise really big. And so you want to try to always keep your starter, reasonably sized. And if you have a recipe that's going to call for 100 grams of starter, you want to make sure that you're building at least 100 grams of starter. So I don't need this much. And we kind of want to just pour out enough to leave about, anywhere from like 25 to 50 grams is a good measurement. So I'm going to open up my other jar. This is the one that stays in the refrigerator. And then I'm going to take the one that has the starter in it, and I'm just going to kind of give it a stir. And it's going to have a really strong smell to it, but that's okay. And then you can just pour it straight into the jar that was in the refrigerator. Okay, and this is the discard jar. This is what you can save for cooking other sourdough recipes. Now, if you don't want to save it, you don't have to. You can pour this directly into the trash. I recommend saving a little bit just because you want to always just have some extra backup in case you need it. So let's see how much this weighs now. So now it weighs 508 grams. So since my empty jar weighs 480, that means I have close to 30 grams of starter in here now. And that's a really good measurement to feed, okay? So again, I'm just gonna set my spatula down on this paper towel. I'm gonna set this discard jar back here. I'll deal with that again in a minute. Okay, so I've got we're just gonna average, I'm just gonna round to 30 grams of starter. So now I'm gonna reset my scale to 0. So because I have 30 grams of starter, I wanna add 30 grams of water and 30 grams of flour. So all I do is I set my scale to 0 and I just pour my water a little bit at a time. You'll kind of learn and get a feel for how much you need. And you just kind of watch the measurements tick up. If it goes above or below by a gram or two, it's not a big deal. So I got 34 grams. That's fine. Close enough. So now you want to stir in the water into the starter. To me, it's always easier to add the water first and get it stirred in with the starter. And also use your spatula to kind of scrape off what's been inside your jar on the inside. And it just helps get your jar clean. Okay. Again, I'm gonna wipe off the spatula with the water and the starter into the jar. Okay, we'll set that down. Now we can add our flour. I'll set the scale to 0 again, just so I can kind of keep track of how many grams of flour we're putting in. So I've got this little cup here that I dip my flour out of. It's just easier. So we're gonna go a little bit at a time. It doesn't take long to get the flour measured out. Okay, that's 32 grams of flour. It's pretty quick. And now you just stir that in. Now is when it turns into more of kind of like a paste. And again, you just stir it in really good. And just again, try to scrape the sides of your jar. And make sure you get down good in the bottom of the jar like that. And it's kind of hard to see on the video, but you'll get a feel for how it looks. And that is that. Now you have your starter ready to sit and grow again for another day. If you're wanting to bake with it that day, this should rise up in 4 to 6 hours if you have a warmish kitchen. But again, this is only going to be about 90 grams of starter. If you were doing a recipe that called for 100 grams or 150 grams, you would have wanted to start with a little bit more. Maybe like 50 grams of starter, add 50 grams of water, and add 50 grams of flour. So you kind of have to think ahead to what you're cooking as to how much starter you want to create. I'm not baking today, so I just did a little bit, and that's just to help keep your starter alive. The only other thing that I would do, which I won't bore you with on this video, is I would actually get a wet paper towel and I would kind of wipe the inside of the jar just to kind of try to keep it clean. And then I also use this paper towel and I'll wipe my spatula off really good before I put it in the dishwasher, because again, you don't want a bunch of starter residue going down the pipes. Also, the starter that I poured in this discard jar, I also like to stir it up in there good. It just keeps the discard healthy. And then I just put the lid back on that and put it in the refrigerator. And I put the lid back on this and sit it back on the counter. And that's it. Bye.